Hi, good evening, everyone. Is it audible to everyone? Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Yes, before understanding today's objective, let's try to recollect it what we were understanding in the last section, and then we'll continue. Yes, which we are understanding about S3 service. Yeah, so we are understanding about S3 service, and in that S3, like different the configurations, the where in the first day, the which we are trying to understand what is a bucket and what is that object and how do you upload that object and how do we enable that versioning options to the bucket, the versioning which helps about it, like unexpected deletes which are happened, or like as a backups if you would like to manage that objects which are storing in the bucket. Yes, that's versioning is very, very important. It is kind of version controlling system in our the DevOps process, that is a Git and GitHub. How do we have the same way we can manage that objects with the different versions options. Yeah, whatever that update which is happening on that object, that's everything will be tracked here. Yeah, that is one option. And then which we started in the last section about some security related aspects about S3 in that properties. One is encryption options. Yes, how do we protect the data which we are storing in the buckets? We have this like a total sorry, different approaches which we have, total 4 methods which we can use it. But like as the GUI based support which we have the 2 approaches while uploading. But yes, through the programming approach is the developer's point of view. Yes, using objects uploading using Python program or Java program API's point of view, we have the 4 approaches. What are those 4 methods which we can divide it into that? Server side encryption, SSE approaches, the server side encryption, and as well as the server side itself, which we have a standard approach, which is using that AES 256, or which we can say that SSE with KMS, that is AWS management key, which we can use it to perform that encryption. But in SSE S3, the default AWS AES 256, that's key management that will be used. There is no explicit key. But another option, as we are understanding about it, KMS approaches, the key management service. Yeah, AWS one of the key that we can use it, and that key helping about it to perform encryption, decryptions. But 2 approaches like a client side, which we have, like that means we can pass that client side key to the AWS to perform that encryption option, or completely the client side itself we can encrypt that object, and encrypted object we can upload to the S3 bucket. So there are all the additional 2 approaches, but like as a GUI based or like a front end approach, which we have the 2 approaches, SSE S3 or SSE KMS. That's we are trying to understand it, that security configuration. But that security encryption option, we have this at bucket level and as well as at object level also. Is during uploading that object, or once that object has been uploaded, we can define that the encryption options. But bucket level, whatever we configure about it, so the by default that will be applied to that object. Yes, object by default that is going to use it a bucket level whatever we have defined. But at the same time, object level, if it is required that for the particular object and different the approach, that is encrypted approach, Yes, we can configure that or we can customize that as well as. So each object level we can define it, the encryption option. Yeah, each object level we can define that, and as well as bucket level we can define it. Yeah, this was one concept which we are trying to understand it, that encryption and decryption on the security level. And then next which we are trying to understand about that access control list. So access level, like the owner, what he can do, owner of this object, the who is uploading that into this, this bucket. Actually, yes, this account owner, what he can do, and other account holders, what they can do, or public, what they can do. Public is through URL who are asking about this object, what they can do that. Yeah, the next is which we are trying to understand the permission sections about the ACL. Yeah, so first of all, like object ownership, that means ACL has to be enabled. Yeah, so here if you just go for that, yes, access control list, first it has to be enable that ACL, then we can allocate it about it. Yes, that is bucket owner, what are the permissions, and everyone that is a public, what they can do that, but public mostly the list or read operations. And authenticated users group, anyone with AWS account. Yes, anyone who is having that AWS account, what they can do that with their AWS account. Yeah, access for other AWS accounts. Yes, you can grant the permission to other AWS account also to give the full control on these objects. Yeah, they can do the list and write. Write is nothing but that is uploading or putting object or updating that object. Yeah, other account holders and anyone who is having the AWS account are the public access and the current owner of this, the bucket. Yeah, the ACL's control list, which are helping about it to give that access control. That is, yeah, as we are talking about the operations wise controlling operations like a read, write, or list. This kind of operation wise, if you like to control it, that is ACLs are helping that. But ACL says which we can do that this one also at object level and as well as the the bucket level and as well as object level. Yeah, if you go to the permission section and here ACL, if it is enabled, then that ACL control, yes, we can do at a object level also. This is object scope, which we are trying to access, and bucket level, entire bucket level also, which we can define. So that is second option, the ACLs which we are trying to understand it. And third option, what do we have this or what we are trying to understand in the security is that's about policies. So already we know about it through IAM, which user, what are the services he can access about it. That is, we can manage it through policy management, right? Policy configuration or policies attaching to that user level or group level or role level. So that is one control. So user who has logged into that account, that is development team or testing teams. So what they can do that on the S3. Do they have the full access or do they have that like only read access? That is one control who are logged into the account in IAM section. We can define it for the testing teams or the development teams who requires the permissions on this S3 bucket. But another option what we have to see is more into that yes, this bucket level. Yeah, we can define this the custom policies and the statements and with conditions. Yes, that's the buckets with the permissions. And here, yes, we can define the bucket policies. We can find it, the sample policies from the AWS documentation, or we can edit it and we can go to the policy generator and which service and which operation wise, and the principal is to whom do you want to provide the permission. This permission, is it allow or deny? Yes, Amazon S3 point of view, which actions, like a particular operations point of view. And finally, bucket ARN, we can define it. That is Amazon resource name, unique name of the bucket. Then to this bucket, what are the allow or deny rule? And to that principal, like the users which are specified on this service for these actions, we can generate the policy document. And this policy document, which we can use it while defining the securities to the buckets or objects. Yeah. So this is one more thing, like multiple statements also we are trying to understand it. Yes, multiple statements if you like to add it as a single policy document with multiple statements, that's we are trying to understand it. Yeah, so the overall, so this was the topic which we had it. And one more thing that's which we are trying to understand, how do we use it, AWS S3 bucket as a static website hosting service. Yeah, can we use it the bucket for that to host a static website? Yes, we can do that. Static website hosting. We can enable it. And what is the index document? Yeah, like initial document which we can define it, index.html. And but to use it, this website hosting, and to access about that, the objects which are available in this bucket through public as a website hosting point of view, we need to disable that in the permission section. Yeah, the block public access. By default, that is enabled, blocked, but we were unblocking that. That is, we are allowing that public access. Yes, if you are planning to host a website, is nothing but yes, website, static website especially. Yes, that is the permissions you are going to give it to that. That's like who can access the resources. Yeah, that is one thing. Thus, you need to enable that public access point of view. Block whatever we have, this block has to be disabled. Yeah, so there are the points that we are trying to understand it as securities, encryption options, ACL options, policies, and how do we use it ES3 with the static website hosting. Is it clear, the which you are understanding? And it was given one project also, the S3 bucket project also. But how many of you completed that? Anyone started about that project? It doesn't take much time, so but I don't see there's anyone responding to that. Have completed that or not? First of all, how many of you at least tried about that? That's AWS project. Okay. Okay. Then when can we expect that? Can I expect that tomorrow? Yeah, I see there's only 2 members responding. What about others? First of all, I have got that agenda of this project, problem statement. Okay, today try it and let me know that if you still didn't understand about the problem statement, then I'll explain this one more time. But everyone try to complete it. So next we have this like the VPC and then CloudWatch. Once these are all done, all these services based one more project which will be having that. But try to complete it. But just the attending the classes, it is not going to helping that. Try to complete and explore about yourself, the AWS, the services. Then that would be the more the strength that will be added to that about your S conference level. But try to practice it. So the practice makes more perfect rather than just attending the classes. Yeah, so let's continue to that. Next, one more small activity which you have from S3 point of view. That is the cost management activity. Yeah, what about this cost management? Like here, so this in our context, if we just observe that, whenever we are trying to uploading that objects, as a versioning, if it is enabled, so many backup copies it is managing that. So many backup copies. We need to use it because the versioning is very, very important. As by mistake, if I have deleted the backup file, you have a backup file if I have deleted, then how to get it back that? We don't keep it in 4 places, right? Or 2 places, right? One is backup here, one more backup in some other, no. But if I by mistake, if I have deleted this one also, if I have enabled that versioning, then still that physically it is not getting deleting, only that virtually it will be deleted. As we're talking that here is delete marker. Only it is marking that delete, but we can go back to the previous version, and if it is required that to restore it, select about that object and you can download it or you can just get back that. But here the problem is if I keep on storing that objects like this, so here we have this overall 3 objects. If you just observe that here, 3 objects. But in the real-time application, whatever like the reports which we have or the backups we have, it is keep on updating that. So here the size which are in the KBs itself, but those log files point of view, backup files point of view, which you have in the GBs. So more objects if you are using with the previous versions or the current version, just 2 points here. As we are talking about it, previous version of the files and current version of the file. Yeah, if you just observe that this RNS logo, this is the current version and the latest one, which is available to the user, but it is having the previous almost 4 or 5 versions copy of it. But what we need to do is, so you have those like some retention mechanism, which we can say retention in the sense after some days. So these backup files are old version of that objects, not the current object, current version of object. The older version of objects, we can delete it. Or what is that another option is? Suppose if you just take that like example of it, the hospital, the records. Okay, just let's talk it. That's just the best example. The hospital, the management application. Let me just open the PPT. Yeah. So healthcare domain or hospital management application, if you just talk at that. So what is like use case, how they have the say, suppose patient, whenever he joined to that or he has admitted that the reports of the patient required to access very frequently, right? Yes, all that like health records of that patient, it is required that very frequently. Yes, doctor, whenever he is visiting to the patient, as morning time or afternoon or evening time, the report should be available in their the application. That is which we can say the frequently data accessing that. The frequently the data access. Yes, this is suitable for performance sensitive use cases where the latency should be kept low. Yes, whenever that the doctor is watching or his reports, is watching his reports, it should be accessible very fast, and where we should not see this any latency issues. And as well as yes, the whenever they need to download it, yes, the download time also should be very fast. That means retrieving the reports as simple as it is. Okay, one of the storage class which is available in that S3 is, yes, if you need that objects which is required very frequently to access it without having any latency issues, and whenever you are planning to download it, yes, immediately that should be downloaded. So if you have this kind of the requirement about your data objects, that means like yeah, in the bucket, what are the objects we are talking about it, that object should be placed in the one separate standard storage class which is available, that is which we can say frequently data access. Yeah, if the objects are in the frequently data access storage class, so the data is, yes, without having any latencies, we can access it. Very frequently access the data. Okay, this is the first class. Now the patient has discharged. If the patient has discharged, okay, maybe like sometimes initially it is required to visit like maybe weekly or monthly. So whenever he is going to, I mean, whenever he is yes coming to the office, sorry, that's a hospital, that is required about that accessing the reports. But it is not like as a daily access, but some infrequent. Now, yes, data is required. We should not delete the data. Okay, customer, I mean, the patient is discharged, it is nothing but we should not to delete that all his reports. But we should keep that his reports, but it is not required as a very frequently. So what is the second level of the class which we have is moving that objects from the standard classes to that the infrequently the data access. Yes. So yes, second class which we have this is which we can say that infrequent data access. If we move that object from frequent data access to that infrequent data access, yeah, this is suitable for use cases where the data is long lived. Yes, we need to store that the reports long duration and less frequently accessed. That is for the data archival, but still expects a high performance. Yes, whenever we are trying to access, but even that infrequent data access also. So whenever he visited that hospital, his report should be available immediately as a high, I mean, without having any latencies. But we are not going to use it as a daily. That is a point. Yeah, example, in the same hospital, people who have been discharged, their records of the data will not be needed on a daily basis. But if they return with any complication, their discharge summary should be retrieved quickly. Yeah, so first type of the class is frequently data access. Second one is infrequent data access. But what is that advantage to us moving that objects, like managing that objects in the frequently data access, or is it required to move into that infrequently data access is saving the cost. saving the cost. Yes, AWS is providing that different storage classes. So on the base of the data object access point of view, which we can use it these storage classes. Yes, if you have this data which is required the very frequently to access without having any latency issues, or the download will be very fast, then keep that objects within the frequent data access class. That is, we can say the standard class. But you have those objects which are having like after some specific duration, we don't use it as regularly. Only some objects we use it regularly, but some objects like after some days, it is going to become the infrequently data access. But we should not delete it. Yes, move that objects automatically from one space after some specific time, you can move into that another storage class. What is that second level of the class which is available is infrequent data access. Okay, after this, another scenario what we have this is if the patient that is okay, the more than 1 year or 2 years, it is the time has come. It is more than 1 year or 2 years has been visited to that patients. Then those old patient records we need to kept it, but it is not required like as infrequently or frequently. So whenever they are visited of the hospital after 1 year or 2 years, maybe you need to access the reports, but sometime it is going to take it. Yes, sometime if it is required also, the patient will accept it. Boss, you have visited the long back, we need to get the all the reports. It takes some time, but you should not say this, we don't have the reports. But we have the reports, but to get it downloading of all the things, it takes some time. We need to 2-3 hours it takes about it, then we can give that all about your reports. Yeah, if you have this kind of the requirement, that is kind of the backups, maybe whether you are going to use it or not, we are not sure, but it is required that keeping as a backup with low cost. So then what is that like a type of the storage class which is available is Amazon Glacier is available. Suitable for use cases where the data is to be archive files like as backup files, and high performance is not required. Yes, here you will be having the latency issues while accessing the reports. You will be getting that, but it takes some time. And it has a lower cost than other two services. Yes, the objects which are stored in the Glacier are going to chargeable the very the less cost. Yeah, so test reports like prescriptions, MRI, X-ray, scan documents, etc., that are older than a year will not be needed in the daily run, and even if it is required, lower latency, it is not needed also. Yeah, so these are all the main three classes which we have. Frequent, that's we can the standard. That means any object which are uploading to the bucket by default, that is in the standard class. But on the base of about our object requirements point of view, we can move that objects from standard to infrequent access. That is IA, we will call it that. Even that still, if you don't have any the latency, even the latency issues also fine, but it takes some time also, that's fine. Then you can move into that objects into the Glacier. Yeah, durability of any class, if you just take it, the durability is the same. And availability here, yes, these are all going to give the standard or infrequent access. So this is a 99.99% availability. So without having any latencies or any, the time that's which are not required, immediately you can get it. But this is this is also almost the same, 99.90%. But Glacier, these are, objects which are storing in the Glacier, you should not say that is for immediate availability. You should not kept it. So it takes something 3 hours or the 4 hours of the time to get into that or downloading this. If you are okay with that, then you can move that about your objects to the Glacier. Yeah, minimum object size, kept in that like standard classes or infrequent or Glacier. So standard or Glacier, no limit on it, but infrequently 128 KB minimum at least size that is required. And minimum duration here in the standard, no minimum duration. As long as you need it, you can kept it. But this like infrequently class, if you like to move it, at least the object should be placed 30 days in the standard class. After the 30 days, yes, if you'd like to plan it, yes, you can move that objects into the infrequently access class. And from the infrequent access class, yes, after the 90 days, so that is required, you need to wait it to move into that objects to the Glacier. This is at least the time. That's how much time that is required to keep into that objects moving from one class to another classes. Yeah, we can define the rules automatically moving that objects from this class to this class or this class to this class. But at least you need to have it 30 days, then you can move into that infrequently. After the 90 days, then you can move that objects to the Glacier. And while downloading time, yes, frequent and infrequent access, there is no time required. Within that milliseconds, you will get that objects. But Glacier, if that object is there and if you need it to get it back, yes, it requires some time. And fees point of view, retrieval fee. So here, retrieval point of, because infrequently there is a cost as like a high cost point of view, no fee separately for the retrieval. And infrequent access or Glacier, they're all on the base of the GB of the data which you are trying to getting or downloading, the charges which will be applicable. Now got this, these are three classes, the main. So total three classes which we can say, standard, infrequently, and Glacier. But again, the Glacier, we have this deep Glacier also, Glacier and deep Glacier. So we have the different options. Yeah, let's go ahead to the and AWS S3, the cost or the price if you just browse it that. This is and especially storage classes. Yes, this is the one. Yeah, general purpose objects. So first the objects which will be kept in S3 standard. So there are the key features which you can refer to the documentation also. Low latency and high throughput performance. Yes, downloading time is also the very fast and durability 99.99%. Objects across multiple availability zones and designed for 99.99% availability over a given year. Yeah, so there are some features. Uh, yes, next which we have this is intelligent tiering. So this is like AWS automatically is going to take care of that on the basis of about our object usage, which object should be kept in that like a standard class, or which object should be kept in that like infrequently access class. We don't have that some specific duration, then we can go further using S3 intelligent tiering. So this is automatically reduces that's about your storage costs on a granular object level by automatically moving the data to the most cost effective across tier based on access frequency. Yes, on the base of the access frequency, AWS, their intelligent mechanism, it is going to use it, moving that objects to the one class to another class. Yeah, this is going to helping that saving almost, yeah, the 40% lower cost tier that is optimized for infrequent access. Yeah, the 40% lower cost than the infrequent access class. And 68% lower cost tier optimized for access data, normal standard classes point of view. Yeah, this is another one, and there are the features which are available. And another point or another class which are talking about it, IA. Yes, infrequent access. So in this infrequent, again we have those two types. What are the two types is? This is on the base of high availability. Suppose object I need to kept in like infrequent access class, but in single availability zone. The single availability zone, that's we have the one zone option. One zone option is nothing but, so maybe sometimes this this zone is got this zone is having some maintenance issues. During the time my objects are not available, so this is availability based. So they have given again that like infrequently accessed objects, do you want to kept with a high availability, that means at least two or more availability zones, or you don't have high priority preference but with low cost, only in the single availability zone do you want to store that about your object as infrequently access. So there's a multi-availability zone option, and this is only one zone. That means only in one availability zone objects which will be stored. If you have any maintenance activities during that time, you cannot access about your objects. But if you go to the S3 standard IA, this is high availability. That means objects which will be stored in more than two availability zones. Even one availability zone is having maintenance issues also. Still, we can get it out that objects access. So on the basis of high availability point of view, you can choose it one availability zone with infrequent access or multi-availability zone with infrequently access class. Yeah, these are all some key features which we can just browse with that. Next, another which we are trying to understand, the Glacier. Yeah, so these are all like especially archive files, backup files. Suppose we have the database files as a backup. After that, like the 2 weeks or like the 1 month. So those backups we can move into that's the infrequently access and infrequently to that as a permanent backups, right? Especially archive files. Yeah, so those kind of objects, if you have any archive files which are required as a backup, long live, and whenever we need it, yes, with some latency we can get it back, but some latency time is required. Yeah, then we can prefer about it moving that objects to Glacier. Yeah, backed with that for a high availability, and 128 KB minimum object size is required, and designed 99.9% only data availability in a given year. But the durability, okay, that is the same thing. The data losing that or corrupting that, we don't see those options. That is available 99.9999% of it. And within this S3 also, yeah, the retrieval time based. So that's like for archive files which are expecting about it 1 or 2 times per year, then you can use it. The flexible retrieval, another class which is given that. So designed for durability, yes, the same. And data is resilient in the event of one entire availability zone destruction. and it support SSL and cost is less. On the base of the retrieval in the minutes, the cost which will be charged on the base of the data and as well as the time which is taken about it. Yeah, this is the another one is a deep Glacier. Yeah, if you are expecting that the cost is the very less cost and the lowest cost storage class designed for long-term retention of data that will be retained for 7 to 10 years of the backups. So this is the last class which is available as a like which we can say the deep Glacier. Yeah, there are the different classes which are available overall. Just try to refer it, but this will be helpful as to save the cost optimization of the objects. How got this picture of this? Are you clear this one? Now let's talk about it. How do we define the rules? Yes, now like we have the requirement the first 30 days kept that object in the storage class, normal storage. Then after 30 days move to the infrequently access class. And after that infrequently then go further moving into that after some 90 days or 180 days move to that Glacier. Or old versions objects, what do you want to do that? Do you want to delete it older than the some specific array, the versions of that? Yes, what do you want to do that? If you'd like to understand all those concepts or defining the rules, so what is the section that is available is, if you go to the management section, and here we can see this lifecycle rules is the option which is available. The lifecycle rules, and here we can create on the base of about our application in this bucket which objects we are going to store it, that objects how do you want to manage it. Do you want first anyway that is a standard object class, but on the base of the frequency model, so do you want to move into that infrequently or do you want to use it like intelligent tiering mechanism? Suppose you don't have the clarity of the objects, the frequency, then use it about it intelligent tiering mechanism. Then AWS on the base of objects the which are accessing the frequently based or infrequently based, that's automatically objects that will be adjusted into the storage classes. But what is the advantage for us? The cost wise, as we are talking about it, something like a 40% difference or 68% difference of the cost. That's we'll see that like objects kept in normal storage classes or infrequently access or Glacier. Glacier is very cheapest the cost of it, where you can plan that long-lived objects, that is, as it was showing about it, 7 to 10 years of that plan if you have, then move into the Glaciers. Okay, so now let's look into that. How do we define the rules? Yeah, so first let's define this rule name. Like this is about yeah, storage the classes from frequently accessed to that infrequently accessed. Yeah, if you'd like to apply the rule, yes, apply to all objects in the bucket. Do you want to apply it? Yes, this rule, all the objects in the bucket, or if you have this any filter type, a filter type is nothing but okay, the objects which starts with something like a dev, which starts with that. So this is a prefix. Any objects which starts with this dev, okay, apply this rule. So like this, on the basis of some filter criteria, on the basis of object names which you have, you can apply that particular objects in the bucket. Or if you like to apply this to all the objects in the bucket, yes, we can apply that. That is two different options. So the particular objects which are having some specific filter option or all the objects in the bucket. But if you're applying all the objects, yes, you need to acknowledge it that. Then, yes, the rule actions. So what is the rule that we want to perform it? Here you see this like two different current version actions and a non-current version actions. As we are understanding about it, versioning option has been enabled. And if you are keep on updating that are same object on the basis of time based, yes, the latest version is current version and non-current is the previous versions. Yeah, what are the actions that you want to define it on these the current version or non-current versions also. Here you can see that all these rules which are helping. But what are the different rules are available if you just observe that? Move current versions of objects between the storage classes. Yes, as we're talking about it, the current version of object, if you like to move it frequently to that infrequently or infrequently to the Glacier or Glacier to the deep Glacier, yes, we can use it this option on the current versions. Or move non-current versions of objects between the storage classes. Yes, non-versions, that's the previous versions. Yes, these are previous versions, but you need to kept as a backup. Then if you have those, that's kind of the requirement, then you can enable this rule. And you can apply that non-current version of objects, moving that object class 1, class 2, and other classes. Then next option is expire current version of objects. Yes, when do you want to expire that? So if that object is marked expired, then you can go for deleting. So it is not available, accessible, but that is you can kept it as an access point of view. It is expired, but after that, some specific time you can delete that. Or another option which I have is permanently delete non-current version of objects. Yes, the previous version of objects, I don't want to keep it that. Then if you would like to permanently delete it, you can enable this option. Yeah, delete expired object, delete markers or incomplete multi-part uploads. Yes, like in a versioning object, if you just observe that we have that markers, delete markers, right? Delete markers, or sometimes whenever we are uploading that objects in the mid, I mean, as like more than 5 GB of that data, whenever you are uploading, sometimes this is going to get failures. The upload which will get failures because of network issues, because of the main network related or network bandwidth timeouts point of view. So the multi-part uploads which are incomplete, I mean some parts which have been uploaded, some parts are not uploaded, then I would like to delete those expired objects or incomplete multi-part uploads. Then you can use it this rule. Yes, which rules that do you want to apply that? Yeah, whenever you are applying the rules, current version, storage classes, non-current, objects point of view storage classes, or do you want to mark that objects after some time as expired objects, or permanently delete non-current, I mean the non-current versions of objects? Yes, which action that do you want to perform it? First we can choose that actions. First let me show that one by one. Move current version of objects between the storage classes. Okay, if I choose it that option, current version of object between the storage classes. Now, what is the first any object class? S3 standard, right? S3 standard. Now choose the storage class transition. So move that standard infrequently accessed. So first is S3 standard class to that infrequently accessed data once a month with milliseconds access, 30 days minimum storage duration. Yes, you need to use it. Suppose after that, like some 30 days, I would like to move that my object to the infrequently accessed class. So here, yes, in this bucket, all the objects or specific objects you can filter it. Yeah, those objects after the 30 days, it will be moved to that infrequently accessed. Next, what is the next? Intelligent tiering. Like AWS itself would like to identify that automatically. That is intelligent tiering mechanism. Now you cannot apply the standard infrequent. Already it is applied, right? Infrequently accessed. Yes, you are moving to that after the 30 days infrequently access. But I don't need that intelligent tiering. But after that 90 days, I would like to move to that Glacier. So then I can choose it a Glacier class, and my objects after the 90 days, it has to be moved to that Glacier classes. And after that's like the 180 days, then automatically has to move to that the deep Glacier. This is long lived like objects. So if you're planning for the years, then you can use this option, Glacier Deep Archive. And after that, like 6 months, I need to move that my objects to this particular class. So like this, we can define that on the current version of objects or non-current also if you'd like to apply it. Yes, you can use it non-current this option. And then which class after the days, but at least the minimum days that you need to manage it. But more than that or greater than that days, which you can specify it. So suppose the minimum is at least 30 days. But after that, okay, I need that in the standard class at least 35 days or 40 days, which we have this as per about our application, and within that application that yeah, in the bucket of what are the type of objects which are storing that client requirement of that objects point of view, we can define these days. Yeah, now finally you see this here. Yes, current version of actions, what it is defined is in the day 0, objects will be uploaded, and after the 35 days, objects move to the standard infrequently access, and after the 90 days, objects move to the Glacier instant retrieval, and after that 180 days, objects move to that deep archive. So like this entire transition, the what's going to happen to that about our objects. So thus we can the monitor about it, or we can get it that. Or suppose old version of objects, I don't delete it. I mean, I don't need it. Now you can select about permanently delete non-current versions of objects. Once we select this option, yeah, permanently delete non-current versions of objects. So days after objects become non-current. After how many days? So it is kind of expiration is required for the selected action. Enter a value or deselect the action. Like after that, so something like 20 days which we have. The number of newer versions to retain it. Suppose it can be applied to 100 versions. But suppose the latest 3 versions only I would like to kept it. So kept that latest 3 versions up to that 20 days. And after that, yes, that's the old version of object that will be automatically deleted. So it is going to keep it 3 versions, and the object has to become that minimum 20 days to mark it like as a non-current. Or if you have this, if you don't have the days, you can just leave this, and you can just kept that only the number of version that's required to keep it backup. Latest 3 version that's I need to kept that as a backup. Yes, you can kept that. So like this, on the basis of the requirement, current versions, non-current versions, moving that the classes from one class to another classes, or deleting that the non-current version of objects, permanently deleting, or a delete expired object, delete markers, or incomplete multi-pod uploads. Yes, if you have this, that's kind of these are all like unused objects. Indirectly, we can say that. So if you have those kind of options, yes, there is that. Yes, delete expired object and delete incomplete multi-pod uploads if you have selected. Yes, then that will be after these many incomplete multi-pod. Yes, after these many days, it is going to wait it, and after thus many days, that will be automatically deleted. So are you getting the points on this? So how do we use these rules? Are you clear about these rules? Some of the different rules which are showing. What is the purpose of all these rules? When do we use it? In which context these are all going to helping that? Yeah, in the interviews, this is very, very important. So how you are going to save that, or how do you optimize the cost in AWS? If we just talk it, one of the important thing is storage. Yes, a storage point of view, the backups management point of view, yes, S3 is one of the important service. And in that S3, what are the objects which we are keeping that? Yes, managing with these lifecycle rules are the very, very important. Yeah, so now if I create a rule, non-current versions are retained, all other non-current. Okay, so the days after objects become. Okay, let me mark it like 5 days. Yes, now this rule has been enabled in that entire bucket, the objects. Yes, so first 30 days that will be kept in this frequently accessed. And after that, it will be moved to that infrequently accessed, then Glacier, then deep Glacier. And non-current versions actions is permanently deleted. Our expired objects and delete markers also permanently deleted. Our incomplete multi-pod uploads also. Yes, like a multi-pod upload. So sometimes that's like uploading that objects which are having that like the more than 5 GB. We use that the programming approach with the multi-pod to upload it. But sometimes that multi-pod also will get failed. But that failed objects, what we need to do that? Yes, that failed objects, we would like to delete it. That is a marker here. Yeah, at any time you can edit this one and you can or the change these actions, adding that new rules or changing that, or you can create a different rules also. Yeah, that is about one of the important section. That is how to manage that on the objects to save the cost. Is it clear about this? Yeah, overall S3 point of view, if you try to understand it, the buckets, objects, and versioning options, and then security point of view, encryption options, encryption with policies, ACL rules. Yeah, that is another important. And website hosting, okay, if you have this the requirement, yes, without having the serverless architecture, you have some static content application. Yes, we can use it S3 itself as the endpoint to access as an application. And objects, so if you keep on uploading or like backups to manage it about it, yes, we can use it, this management rules. That is the transition rules or deletion rules for the current version, non-current versions. Yeah, that's about some important concepts which we have in this. Yes, any queries on this S3 service point of view, please? Yeah, in the monitoring section in the metrics, you can see total bucket size. Yes, now that bucket size, it is approximately 6.7 MB it is using that. And total number of objects, we have those approximately 9 objects, either current version or the previous versions. Yeah, that is a total. And here you can see the storage class analysis also. It is also kind of the monitoring about objects, how it is moving from the storage class to that like infrequently access or infrequently to the Glacier. So if you create like a configuration analytics, then you can keep on analyze it about that objects frequency moving that from one stage to another stage. Yeah, there are some reporting option which we can just browse in that. Yeah, these concepts on the S3, the which we have. That's all for today. Yes, any questions on this? And try to complete that a project and come back for tomorrow. Then we will discuss that the tomorrow networking side. That's about the VPCs. The very important and interesting concept. But there are all the things, just to browse it the one by one, then you will get that familiarity with that all these different sections. But S3 is very important. Yes, any questions, please? Yeah, so try to refer this the project and complete it, and everyone should submit that. The S3 URL or CloudFront URL. Yes, the CloudFront also one service, just refer it. So CloudFront integration with the S3 and S3 the bucket configure as a static website hosting with the policy document. I mean that it doesn't take much time, so max half an hour. But policy document defining and taking that a project uploading, and then yeah, CloudFront which you need to do some work on it. Like it takes like if you refer this 1 hour any one of the YouTube videos, you will get the CloudFront idea. Will you complete tomorrow the project? Shall we expect that? Everyone is silent. Okay, complete it and submit that. That is that helps. I mean, you know about, I have shared already URL, right? The project URL. Or I didn't share it that. So I have shared. I'll check it once again, and if it is not shared, I will share that a project related. I hope so. I have shared it. Just check it once again and try to start it and work it on that project. That will be helpful. Yeah, that's all. This is a small concept. The management, the rules management, small concept, but interesting and very important. So how do we optimize the cost in S3? And how do we delete that objects? We don't go manually deleting that objects one by one. Because so many objects will be thousands of that objects keep on updating that. How do we handle that all those things? So we define that this management rules. So do you want to delete it old versions or the current versions? What do you want to do that? Or what do you want to apply it? I mean, the storage classes on the base of that object, the usage by the clients, or internal objects on the base of the backups to manage it, or yeah, archive files to manage it. Yes, these classes are the very important. Yeah, that's all from my side for today. So tomorrow we'll meet it and we'll continue with the VPCs. Yeah, thank you all.